Hello, today we are going to be breaking down the roller skating episode of Malcolm in the Middle. This is season 1, episode 13, and it is my favorite episode of Malcolm in the Middle. A little fun fact is Taylor was actually on Malcolm in the Middle for a few seasons. He didn't have to roller skate for it, but we're going to cover what Hal does and what Malcolm does in this episode. Okay, so the roller skating portion of this starts out with arguably the best line about roller skating in a TV show that I cannot believe I haven't used before. Let me just play it for you.
I want skating lessons.
Son, you know, once you start, there's no going back.
The best line, and honestly, so very true. The whole thing is that Malcolm doesn't know how to skate. He doesn't have skates, and Hal has showed his boys how to skate, and he has this secret past of being a roller skater. My friend was the body double for Hal in this, so I obviously know when it is Bryan Cranston and when it is not Bryan Cranston because I know my friend's skating very well. But when Hal first wakes Malcolm up for his training, it's 5 a.m. and he walks in on his toe stops. So in my membership, in my courses, I use my toe stops a lot. So many of these skills that Hal does are accessible skills for every level. And then there are some very extreme artistic skating skills. I will talk through all of them, but this is basically a toe stop strut. I love my toe stops. I use my toe stops a lot in different skills, in dance moves. So he steps in on his toe stops and then they get into their training. He spins his wheels to wake Malcolm up, and I think that's fantastic. Okay, so when they start their training, they start with their stretches. Now, Hal is very flexible. I'm very impressed with this because he reaches down to the ground past his skates, which if you're already pretty tall, reaching down to the ground is pretty far, and then you add the height of skates, that is impressive. He circles Malcolm in a sort of scooter push. This is a great way to warm up and a great drill to practice your outer forward edges. So when you're doing a scooter push, you're pressing one foot on an outside edge, creating a circle around your subject. In this case, it's Malcolm, but he's pressing an outer forward edge and pushing his other foot, either pushing fully or doing a half scissor. We can't see his feet, but I believe all of his wheels are on the ground and he's doing a half scissor to push. I use this in a lot of my drills. I warm up doing this a lot. It's just a great way to get into your edges and get used to your skates. He's wearing protective gear. I want to talk about this. Now, protective gear when skating is extremely important. I grew up in artistic skating and we do not wear protective gear because we are in a very controlled environment inside a skating rink. At least I think that's why. Also for competition and stuff, it's not necessarily the best looking thing to wear, but please always know that if you are more comfortable skating with protective gear, please do it. Do not be ashamed of wearing protective gear ever. So he's wearing wrist guards, elbow pads, all of that. Now, his steps that he first takes when he does this, the camera goes to full body and he steps to the right. And then instead of stepping together, which you would think he would do, he crosses behind. So he does a back cross to then step out again, then steps together. Then going to his right, he does a similar move. Then he drops down to the ground. Now, he does some floor work here, which is very impressive. He puts his right hand down on the ground behind him, and he pushes his skates out onto the heels. Now, if you don't want to do this on the ground, if you want to do this standing up, he's basically doing a heel manual. I have a skills video on that. You can get my memberships here on YouTube or on my website, thatnicolefiore.com, and there are hundreds of videos in there. The link is below. A way to practice this is your heel manuals. So you're balancing on your heels. If you do this on the ground, you have to really make sure that the hand underneath you is really in line with your body. We go from these very simple, things that most skaters know how to do, easy beginner-ish skills, to all of a sudden, he jumps on his toe stops. Now, this is a good skill to know how to do, especially because we use this going backward a lot to stop very quickly, slamming both toe stops down on the ground to really stop you on a dime. But he kind of jumps to his toe stops. When you're doing this, you have to make sure that your body is really secure, that you have a nice strong core and you know exactly where your knees need to be, which is over your toes. So if you are doing this and you're hopping to your toe stops, that was definitely my friend who was doing the body doubling, but make sure you know how to do that safely. Again, the toe stop strut is a really great way to start getting comfortable on those toe stops. And it's like a super cute move. Then we go into a camel spin. Now this is an outer back camel. A camel spin is when you are laying flat. Your body is parallel with the ground. Then he comes up, he twists his body up, the edge stays on the outer back edge, and he goes into an outer back upright. I do have a skills class on the outer back upright in my membership. If you want to learn spins, that's a really, really good one to learn. This is my favorite spin. This is admittedly the only spin that I was super comfortable doing in all of my world championships that I performed in that I won. So the outer back upright is a very, very good skill to learn, and I have a video on that. So he does the outer back upright spin and he puts his hands in front of his face. That is to not show my friend's face who was doing the body doubling. So that, yes, it's a style choice. It looks great, but it's also to hide the skater's face because it's not Bryan Cranston. So he comes up into that, and then again, those toe stop, loves the toe stops. He slams his toe stops down, and then he does another sort of toe stop strut, not necessarily as like runway-esque as I like to do it, but he's just stepping on his toe stops, doing some dance moves. He does a little turnaround, kind of like a transition, but he's just stepping onto a toe stop, rotating, stepping onto a toe stop, rotating to turn himself around. All of that is done on your toe stops. Now he goes back to the first dance move he was doing, the step together step, or in his case, he did a step cross behind step, but now he's doing it on his toe stops. So showing some variation here, he's doing some dance moves, steps out, walks toward the camera, does a little dance move and a snap before going into a double mapes or a double toe loop. Now this is a more advanced move. Any double jump I consider a more advanced move. I do have a skills video on a single mapes or a single toe loop. I also have a half mapes or a half toe loop. So I have the half jump version and the one full rotation version. He does a double, which is 2 rotations in the air. So he puts his left toe stop back and he reaches, has a really good strong body position, puts that toe stop down into the ground to jump up, pulling his legs together, crossing his legs in a nice wrap for his jump, 2 times around, landing on his right leg in a nice solid landing position. They show another crossbow. I'm sure there was much more that went into this series of events, but they show one more cross pull, one backward cross pull. Again, I have a skills class on that. And then he steps into another spin. This time he does a travel. Now, a travel, I have a skills class on traveling turns, which are upright, but it is the same thing as going into a travel camel. So the travel that you use to get into a traveling camel is basically the same technique. You're just horizontal. So you are in the camel position, which is horizontal, parallel to the ground, standing on one leg with one leg stretched out behind you. He does this travel into an outer back camel. So when you go from a travel into that outer back camel, he's traveling on his left leg, putting that left toe stop down into the ground to stop his momentum, to then put his right skate down into a camel. So again, another beautiful camel. This time, instead of going into an outer back upright, he goes into an outer back sit. So you go from that nice, beautiful camel position, you rotate just like he did when he was going to stay in the outer back upright, but he bends his right knee to go down into a sit spin. Right outer back sit spin. And then he switches, puts his left leg down to slow his momentum down and goes into, I would say this is like a Marvel hero pose. Okay, so that is our introduction to Hals skating, is that whole scene. Now, if we go into the hockey scene, let's go into there next before we go into Hal's final beautiful program. In this, Malcolm finally has his skates and he's skating like normal, playing hockey with his friends. And then he busts out some really good moves. And honestly, some moves that we all know and love. So he starts moving his hips. He's copying Hal. And then He takes a few pushing steps, does some backward cross pulls into a nice left inner forward edge to turn forward. Those inner edges, I have a skills class on that too. Those are very important. And then he goes into a strut walk, or a TikTok walk is what I used to call it. He goes into a strut walk. And then they show him turning around again going into that strut walk. So he kind of does a heel to heel transition into a strut walk. When I rewatched this for this video, I was like, oh, I couldn't believe it. And then he skates forward. He does a shoot the duck. So a shoot the duck or a cannonball is when you're down toward the ground. A shoot the duck, you lift one leg up in front of you. He does a shoot the duck and then comes up, throws his stick up in the air, and then does a cartwheel before getting his stick back and shooting the puck. Amazing. So if you want to do a cartwheel on skates, it is absolutely possible. You just have to make sure you recognize that you now have a lot of weight at the bottom of your feet. It took me a long time to get brave enough to do a cartwheel on skates. I can absolutely do it, but you really have to acknowledge that your feet are very heavy. You literally have weights attached to them. So you have to account for that. I suggest starting small, starting on grass to make sure you don't like really hit concrete or anything hard while doing it. Start on the grass, get used to the weight of your skates. But in my membership, I do offer a lot of different drills, and within the course that I have, my foundations course starts from the very beginning and then builds into everything that I think you should know as a skater. And there are drills sprinkled in there as well. But I have a lot of drills to get used to the weight of your skate. That is super, super important. Now we are going to get into Hal's big performance, which is stunning. It is at night. He is on this playground. It's marvelous. It's a whole moment of him putting his skates on, getting ready, feeling his costume. And then when he steps off of this swing set, he's rolling, using his wheels to like help guide him. This going from this swinging position that he's doing into a shoot the duck is actually pretty difficult. You really have to make sure when you are doing this, like on a swing set, if you ever do this, holding onto a swing set and rolling, using the weight of your skate to like help propel you forward and back, you're on your heel wheels most of the time. You can keep your all wheels down on the floor, but that's really hard to do. So you will want to lift your toes up to roll on your heels. Again, kind of doing a heel manual. But then once you come up like he does to get ready to go all the way down and do a shoot the duck, you have to really make sure your skate is underneath you. It's more difficult than it looks. So he goes into a shoot the duck and then he's doing edges. He's doing some like rockover moves before establishing his weight on his right skate and lifting his left skate up. The skater does a series of forward cross pulls. I do have a skills class on that. I find backward cross pulls easier than forward cross pulls. If you look at the skater's posture, it is so good. He is so upright. It's beautiful. His arms are turned to the inside of his circle. That's very important to remember on your forward cross pulls. And then he reaches his right skate forward to put the toe stop down to do a toe stop push, to then do a 3-turn into a double flip. Now, again, with jumps, I have a single flip and a half flip on my website through my membership in the jumps category. He does a double, which is 2 revolutions. Now, if you know how to do a single jump, you pretty much know how to do a double, you know how to do a triple. I'm not saying your body is capable of doing it. My body is not capable of doing a double or a triple. My highest jump that I ever got while I was competing was a double sow cow, and my body does not like jumping. It does not like being in the air. So if you do want to learn your jumps, go for it. It is so much fun, but I'm not a jumper. I don't love to jump, but I do know that people love to learn jumps, and I honestly love teaching freestyle. I love teaching jumps. So on my site, in my membership, I have a single flip and I have a half flip. So if you want to learn those, check that out. But he does a double flip. Now going into a flip, this is one of my favorite ways to go into it. Pushing on the toe stop, doing a 3-turn, then putting that toe stop down into the ground to jump. The difference between this and the mapes or toe loop that he does earlier is the other foot. So in a flip, you're using your right foot if you are rotating to your left. On a mapes, you're using your left foot to put that toe stop down and propel you up. So he does the double flip and then he does a cartwheel. So he uses his toe stop to slow him down. Out of that double flip, he puts his right toe stop down so that he can then step onto the left and do this cartwheel. So good. And then Bryan Cranston's face comes up like he just did it. Okay, now this push that he does backward, he uses his right toe stop to push himself forward. If you do this, you really have to make sure that your hips are back, that you have weight back there, because if you're using your toe stop to push and your weight goes back, it's bad news. So you have to make sure your butt is sticking out just a little bit to make sure you have room back there. You have some pressure back there. Then he turns forward. Now this is really just a messy heel to heel transition, but he gets some speed from it, which is awesome. And then he's rolling. This is an edge rockover again, just like he did at the beginning of this whole sequence. He's doing an edge rockover. Again, I have a skills class on that too. You can do this on both feet, kind of like a slalom, or one foot. He's doing this on both feet, weaving in and out. Now, this moment right here is the moment to me. Like, the jump's amazing, the spin's amazing, but this, he does a spread eagle around this pole to move around it. A general spread eagle is on two inner edges. So he has his left skate on an inner back edge, his right skate on a right inner forward edge to create this half circle going around the pole. So he does a beautiful spread eagle, and then he stops himself, pushes off, rolls backward, uses a toe stop to stop because there's really no other way to stop yourself that quickly while going backward, uses a toe stop, steps forward again, kind of a sloppy heel to heel, and then goes into a spiral. Now this spiral that he does is not really on any edge. He's kind of just flat. The foot is even, and he's doing a spiral with his base leg being the left, lifting his right leg up behind him. Now he does make sure, which this is very important, that he drops his arm before it hits the pole. Doing a spiral like this, you have to realize if your arms are out for balance, that is the best way to do it. But you do have to realize how big your body is at that point. So your arms are out to the side, your leg is out and back. You have a lot, you need a lot of room. So if you are doing this in a small space or a busy space, please be careful when you're doing that. But that is a forward spiral. Okay, so all of those things that I mentioned that I have membership videos on, please check out the memberships. They are available on my website, thatnicolefiore.com. The link is below, or right here on YouTube. You can get a membership here on YouTube. All of the same videos are available, and they are in playlists. So I have drills, skills, and choreography. Everything that I just talked about, besides the drills, are in the skills tab of that. I love this episode. I remember when this came out, I was eating dinner around the dinner table with my family before we went to skating practice, and it came out, and the skater who did the doubling for Hal teaches at the skating rink. So it was really fun to watch this and then go see him at practice. But it was amazing when this came out. I'm not really sure what year this came out. 2000. This came out in 2000. Wow. Yeah. All right, please let me know what other videos you would like me to break down to see what skills everyone is doing, because I would love to make these skills available to you and let you know what you can do to learn them so that you can, number one, copy this. This would be a great Halloween costume for a skater, or if you're just curious what is actually happening in this. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and comment what else you would like me to break down, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.